Okay, so we're in the first BJ Penn Frankie Edgar fight. Frankie Edgar is one of my favourite wrestlers. Always smaller than his opponents. Not much smaller than BJ Penn in this, but always smaller than his opponents. But really good at mixing striking with takedowns. So if you want to watch someone who is a very good MMA takedown artist, he is one of the best. We're just going to go through Frankie's way of working around BJ's single leg defense, because BJ's single leg defense is absolutely fantastic. Because of his flexibility and his athleticism, he was just willing to give single legs away. So Frankie Edgar in this fight never wanted a single leg. So we're going to see how he got around that. And we're going to see him chain together a nice little sequence here of takedown techniques. So let's go ahead. So how do we get into the clinch? Well, we're going to let BJ throw a big lead hook. So he steps in very nicely and he goes for a lead hook. Now Frankie Edgar is reaching already for some kind of attachment here. He's going to duck his head. He knows what's coming. If you notice that BJ Penn isn't watching where this shot is landing, it's pretty obvious that Frankie Edgar knows exactly where it's going and he's going to duck into making some kind of attachment. So he ducks under. BJ Penn at this point is far too close to have any kind of defence against Frankie Edgar, but he's going to leave his lead leg behind because he doesn't actually mind getting single-legged. Frankie Edgar, on the other hand, is going to grab the waist and he's looking for the knee tap. And you can see he's looking at this point over here, he's looking at the back of this heel. He wants to go to the knee tap. Most people would have switched off to the single leg at this point. But as we know, BJ Penn has an excellent single leg takedown defense. So Frankie Edgar is not going to go for that. So now what he's going to do is he's going to miss the knee tap, but he's going to run across the front of BJ in order to catch up with that knee once it's based out. So we can see now that that foot has based out and he's caught up with it. Now he's going to take a shot to the guts. That wasn't a planned part of this move. And I think it hits him right in the cup, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think it was a planned part of this move to take that shot, but what that allows him to do is to reach down for the knee tap. At this point here, BJ could have really done better with framing out on Frankie Edgar, putting this hand on this side of the head and forcing him away. But I don't think BJ Penn's takedown defense is as excellent as Frankie's takedowns are. So we're going to see him get kneed in the cup, what looks like to me, and then he's going to follow that leg back to be able to gather the knee tap. Now once he's got the knee tap, what we would normally see him do is we would see him take his right leg and run it across the front of BJ. But BJ is already moving and circling to stop him allowed to do that. So Frankie is going to run him to the cage. When he runs into the cage, we can actually see here that BJ is doing a great job keeping all this side of his body flat against the cage. His foot's flat, his knee's flat, his hip is flat, his shoulder is flat. He's got a good underhook lifting. This arm's not doing very much, okay? It's offering some kind of frame here, but it's neither lifting the head nor going for the underhook. So really this arm is a bit redundant. He also should maybe be gripping onto the wrist, but as we know, if Frankie comes out to the single leg, BJ will probably escape. So he's not too bothered if this hand goes in, as long as he doesn't get the hands connected. That's the main thing for BJ. So he's offering this single leg. The rest of his body's stuck against the wall. What's Frankie going to do with that? Well, Frankie's not going to take the single leg because he knows BJ can defend it. So we see him working on the cage. We see him now set up so that his foot goes into the control zone. Yeah, he's now got a post that can take the power up through BJ Penn if he was to explode upwards and lift BJ Penn. Okay, so he's in the control zone. His ability now to take BJ Penn's weight onto himself has been established, and we're going to see what he does, which is one of the most beautiful moves. So now he goes into establish. It looks like he's trying to go for a double leg. Alright, he's fishing to get his hands together. BJ Penn is not doing anything really effective to stop this hand grip on the back of the elbow. He's lifting the elbow slightly. He should be either trying to establish the underhook or trying to break the grips. He's not doing either. And this overhook that BJ Penn had now is non-effective. He's hoping that Frankie's going to go out for the single leg. Or maybe that's what he's drilled into himself. So Frankie now drops his body weight, and we're going to see one of the most beautiful moves. He's setting himself up, he's slightly moving right, and now he's going to throw his entire body weight to the left onto his knees. And as he does that, he's going to slide his hands down, which aren't together, to the back of the knee and do a knee cut takedown, and use his head and body to drive BJ Penn. He's going to lift his head up BJ Penn's chest onto where the bread basket is, and he's just going to drive him over this collapsed knee onto his back. Okay, now BJ, fantastic response here. He starts to base out so he doesn't go flat to the ground, and he starts to slide this foot out. As you can see, Frankie's trying to grab this ankle. He's trying to control his foot. They're probably pretty sweaty at this point, and probably that grip was not able to be got, but BJ's going to draw that leg out because he knows if he gets one leg free that Frankie will move on to the single leg. So basically he's given Frankie this leg, the left leg, and he wants Frankie to go for the single leg because BJ's strong enough and good enough to frame off with this one arm. He'll post it straight, stopping Frankie being able to drive up it, and he'll be able to get to 1 foot and defend the single leg. But Frankie doesn't want that. Frankie is still looking to grab the ankle or knee tap him. So Frankie now is going to rebuild his base as BJ Penn gets up. So as BJ posts, Frankie's reaching to grab around the waist. He's still driving with his head, and he keeps his head close so that there's no chance of an underhook going in here. And he's already running behind BJ Penn. Now he goes to the lap belt, and he goes to a very, very tight grip. BJ at this point would normally be being single-legged and defending that, and this frame, this elbow, would be between the neck and the shoulder of Frankie. He hasn't been able to do that, and he's not quick enough to defend, or he's not thought about defending this this grip around his waist. So we see Frankie run behind him and keep rotating behind him. So he's going to make his way around BJ Penn's body. When he gets behind him and gets to a place of comfort, he's now going to load up BJ Penn's hips above his own hips. So he's going to kind of drag BJ back and load up his hips. This is wonderful. I mean, he could have just done a back trip here if he wanted to. Okay, but we can see that as he steps behind, he's actually created enough space here behind BJ. He's got his hips underneath BJ's hips, and he's going to bring those back. Now, there is a nice throw counter here from BJ Penn, but his hips are far too high and probably wouldn't go for it anyway. So Frankie runs behind him, and he loads up BJ's hips on top of his own hips. Once BJ is in the sky, he extends up through his power band, up through this straight line here, and just knocks him over, turning his body to bring BJ down to his back. Now BJ doesn't stay down for very long in this case, but that's a beautiful sequence of moves that Frankie Edgar has put together just to get BJ there. Absolutely beautiful. And as I say, it was a really wonderful way for Frankie to work around BJ's single leg defense. Very impressive to watch. Again, if you want to watch someone who can mix striking and wrestling together exceptionally well, which I think is so important in the modern MMA game, then Frankie Edgar, please go watch him. Also, watch him because he's a lot smaller than his opponents, yet he does exceptionally well. Anyway, that's me done. Good luck if you